everyone, my name is Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, and today I have my March TBR featuring Roll of Reads. Roll of Reads is a readathon hosted by a book fiend named Mel. I will link Mel down below. This is my first year participating in Roll of Reads, and I am so excited to participate this year. I've made my board, I printed out my cards. Let's jump in and see how many rolls I have to do. Then we'll see what prompts the board and the dice grace me with and what books I will be reading for those prompts. So I'm going to be rolling a 12-sided dice to see how many rolls I will be doing for Roll of Reads, and then we'll get down to the prompts. 2. I'm gonna re-roll that and add whatever this next roll is onto 2 because I read well more than 2 books a month. And that's a 6. So I'll be doing 8 rolls. So as you can see, the dice was pretty kind to me. I rolled a 2 first, and then I re-rolled and rolled a 6. So we will be doing 8 rolls in this video, and potentially more if we get a 1 or a triple roll of the same number. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going into all the rules of this readathon because there is a whole FAQ on Mel's video. Again, I'll put it all down in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. So let's jump in and see what my first roll is. Roll 1 is a 7. Human. So my first rule was human, and when I looked up what that stood for, it was to read a contemporary, a romance, or a woman's fiction book. For that prompt, I will be reading a book that I did not get to in February that I meant to, didn't happen. So I'm gonna roll it into March, and that is Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. This is the 3rd book in the Love Light Farms series. I adored Love Light Farms, gave it 5 stars. It's set on this Christmas tree farm in this small town. It's a friends to lovers romance. Absolutely loved it. Last month, I read the 2nd book. That was just okay for me. I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was a second chance romance. And this is the 3rd book. This follows Layla, who is the baker at the Christmas tree farm. They have like a small cafe, and Layla is the baker. We meet Layla in the 1st book. And Caleb, who has definitely kind of secretly / openly had a crush on Layla for a long time. Caleb is, I think, the deputy in this small town. Pretty sure. I love this Love Light Farms little world, and I'm really hoping for more of the small town feel, and I'm really hoping to love this romance. So it's going on my TBR for this prompt. Roll 2 is a 9. Set somewhere you've never been. So for my 2nd roll, I got set in a place you've never been. And for this prompt, I'm picking up a book from a series that I started fairly recently that I absolutely adored. The 1st book was 5 stars, so I have very high hopes for the 2nd. And that is Richard Osman's The Man Who Died Twice. This is the 2nd book in the Thursday Murder Club series. I loved the 1st book. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely adored it. It follows this group of elderly people who live in a retirement facility in this British town. They start trying to solve cold cases because one of their members is an ex-police officer and has access to all their case files. There's a murder in the retirement home, and they think that they have the ability to solve it, and do. They work with the local police station, and I just loved the characters in this book. The character work was the best part of this book, and the humor was fantastic. So I'm excited to revisit these characters and see them solve another mystery. Roll number 3 is another 7, which is translated. For my 3rd roll, I got translated, and this was actually fairly easy because there is a book sitting on my books to self-destruct list that is translated fiction, and I need to read it before the end of the year. So here we go. And that is The Cult on Fog Island by Mariette Lindstein. This book, I'm actually very excited to read it. It's only on my self-destruct list because for some reason I keep pushing it off, and I think it's the size. She's chunky. She's very, very chunky. but I'm excited to read it this month. So this follows Sophia. Sophia meets Franz, who is a leader of a new age movement. She moves into this mansion off the sea to learn from Franz. But as the fog rolls in off this island, all contact with the outside world is severed. There's electric fences around the island. There's no phones. It's very much a cult mystery type situation. I love a good dystopian cult mystery, so I have really high hopes for this. Again, the only reason I've been putting it off is the size. Roll 4 is a 2. Australian author. For my 4th roll, I got Australian author. And for Australian author, I'm going to be putting in my buzzword as well as a book that is on my self-destruct list. So look at me doing so well with these things. And that is The Husband's Secret by Liane Moriarty. This is my buzzword for this month for the word secret. So it works great that I can fit this in for this prompt. This follows Cecilia. Cecilia is in her attic cleaning out her attic when she finds a letter written in her husband's handwriting that says, "To be opened only in the event of my death." She's curious and she opens it anyway and finds that her husband John has confessed to a pretty big mistake and secret that could ruin their family. Cecilia has to decide, is she going to keep this secret or is she going to do the morally maybe correct thing and tell people about what John did? This sounds so interesting. I've only read one Liane Moriarty book before and it wasn't my favorite. So I'm hoping to redeem the author with this book. Roll 5 is another 7, which means we need to add a roll. That prompt is barbarian. I need to look up what that prompt means. So for my 5th prompt, I rolled another 7, and apparently 7 is a very popular number. This dice wants me to constantly land on 7, which means we will have to add an extra roll and be doing 9 rolls now. But that's okay. We also got the prompt of Barbarian, which is a book set in a predominantly rural setting. For this, I'm going to be picking up the B&K, a book club book for April. If you don't know, I host a book club on Discord, links down below, every month with my friend Kelsey over on Instagram and BookTube. We read a book together every single month. You can read it any time in the month, or you can read a breakdown of pages every couple of days with us and read along with us. We do sprints. It's a good time. This month's choice was kind of picked by our members. Everyone kind of wanted to read this book, so we decided to add it. Both of us wanted to read it too. It's been on our TBRs, so it was a perfect time. And we're reading The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I love Kristen Hanna's historical fiction. I don't think I've ever given one less than 5 stars. Her contemporary is hit or miss for me, but her historical fiction, A+. So I'm very excited to be picking this up in March. This follows a group of families set in rural Texas during the Great Depression while they are doing farming and living their lives. That's pretty much all I know about it, but it's set in a rural farming town in Texas. So here we go. This is what I'm going to use for this prompt. Roll number 6 is a 6. Takes place on an island. For my 6th roll, I got Takes Place on an Island. I will be picking up a sequel to a book I started in December, and that is What Happened in Paradise by Elin Hildebrand. This is the sequel to Winter in Paradise. I read it in December. That book follows Irene. Her husband Russ dies in a helicopter crash off the coast of this tropical island. She and her sons go to pick up his body and discover that he had been living a double life in this tropical island. He had a whole family and a whole other life with this huge villa. They don't know how he's paying for these things. It's a very suspect situation. At the end, we start to realize that Russ was probably into something nefarious, but we don't learn really what that is. And I'm anticipating that we learn more about Russ's double life and what Russ was doing in this book. Irene and the boys are going back to this tropical island to kind of discover more about Russ's past. And this is set on a tropical island, so here we go. Roll number 7 is a 12. First Nation author. So for my 7th roll, I got First Nation author, and I will be reading Hearts Unbroken by Cynthia Smith for this. This is a YA contemporary that follows Lou and Joey. Lou breaks up with her boyfriend after he makes some derogatory comments against Native peoples. Lou is a Native person and is like, no thank you, bye-bye. Starts working on the school newspaper with Joey, who is a staff photographer, and they start working on a story about the musical director who's doing an inclusive production of The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is one of my favorite books, so that's very exciting. This musical director is facing backlash from the Parents Association for doing an inclusive production, and these two teenagers are following this story and reporting about it. A romance happens between Lou and Joey, and I'm excited to read this book. I've heard really great things about it, and I'm so glad I get to put it on my TBR.
Roll number 8 is a 5. Book you're intimidated by.
For my 8th roll, I got a book that I'm intimidated by, and that was pretty easy. This book I've been wanting to get to this year, and I'm definitely intimidated by it because it is very chunky, and it's also the last book in the series because the author has not written the final book in the series, and who knows when it will be written, if it will be written, if I will ever know the end of this series. So I'm hesitant to pick it up for that reason, but here it is. It's going on the TBR, and that is A Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. I read The Name of the Wind last year. I 5-starred. I absolutely loved The Name of the Wind. The character work in The Name of the Wind is top tier. Like, I loved it so much. I'm very excited to continue the series, but like I said, I'm a little nervous, just a tad, because it is huge. It's so huge. And also, this is the last book that is out, and there's no sense of timing of the 3rd book. So that's okay. We're gonna read it this month anyway. Also, look how floppy it is. Is there anything better than a floppy paperback?
This is our 9th and should be final roll unless we roll a 1. And we're gonna roll another 12. I've rolled a lot of the same numbers, which is very surprising. Mental physical health rep.
And for my bonus roll and my last roll, I got mental or physical health rep. I decided to pick up a book that I have been wanting to read since I read the author's other book in December. I adored Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane and needed to read The Charm Offensive. So here it is. I'm going to be reading The Charm Offensive. I'm very excited to read this book. Kiss Her Once for Me was one of my favorite books of last year, mostly due to the anxiety rep and the romance in that book. I have anxiety, and when I find a book that has really good mental health rep and really good anxiety rep, it usually gets a pretty good rating for me. Plus, the romance in that book was just excellent. The writing was excellent. Everything was excellent. This, I anticipate to be the same thing. So I know this book has mental health rep in it. I'm assuming it's anxiety rep, but I'm not actually 100% sure what exactly the mental health rep is in this. But I have heard from people that it has mental health rep, so that's why I'm using it for this book. Kiss Her Once for Me did, so again, that makes sense to me. So this follows Dev. Dev is the producer of a reality TV dating show, kind of like The Bachelor, called Ever After. This is all going well until they cast Charlie as the Prince Charming. Charlie is stiff on camera. He's just not good on camera, and Dev has to work with him to make him look good on camera. And I'm assuming a relationship happens between these two characters because it is a contemporary romance. It is a queer romance, and I'm here for all of it and cannot wait to read this book. That is the end of all my rolls for Roll of Reads. I do want to mention one more book that I will be adding to my TBR, and that is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is the Besties Book Club book for the month of March. The Besties Book Club, if you don't know, is hosted by myself, Neva from Reading with Neva, Rainy from Rainy Blue Reads, and Kelsey from Reads with Kelsey. We read one book a month and do a live show discussion of this, and this is our March book. The live show will be on my channel for this, but the date is to be determined. So keep a lookout. I will be scheduling that soon, so you'll see it in your YouTube sub feeds. So this follows, obviously, the deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. However, Evelyn does not die once. Evelyn continues to die as our main character, Aiden, tries to solve her murder. Until he solves the murder of Evelyn Hardcastle, the day will keep repeating itself, and Aiden will be forced to keep reliving the day from different characters' perspectives over and over until he solves who killed Evelyn. And that is the end of my March TBR. Thank you so much to Mel for doing this readathon. It was so fun to roll and pick prompts with Roll of Reads. What is one book that is on your March TBR that you're excited to read? Let me know down in the comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.